Hey there, welcome back to our channel. Let's continue with our episode. In the last episode, we have started our create profile and create address, etc. So in this episode, we're going to continue the create profile section so we can accomplish like wiring up with our repository, with our handler and service. So as you can see in the repository section, we have already created all the functions where we can just create our address and update our user as well as. Along with while we're finding the user, then we can get the connected, like the correlated address as well, right? So if you go to user handler, you can see everything is hooked up with our service, but there is a kind of connection it's not being established, that is called user, right? So what we can do here, while we are going to create the profile, let's try to update the user, because if you can see here in the user model, the first name and last name at any point of time, user can add the this information, right? So maybe while they're just like a login or maybe sign up as an user, then maybe they're using some kind of like mock name or maybe any information they have used to that one. And then when they realize like, I need to receive the parcel, right? So sometime while I'm gonna order the package, then it has to reach to my name, right? Then at that time, customer can change their name or whatever they can do, like to edit this information. It has to be, we need to update first, all right? Then we are going to update our address. So this is the thing we are going to handle in user service. So let's try to do that. So first of all, update user, then we are going to create the address. Then we are going to create the address. So maybe in the later stage, we are going to handle multiple address. Let's say one is your home address or one maybe in office address. So this is how the bigger e-commerce company, they are just like handling multiple address as well as, right? So you can make one address as a default address. So those are a little bit complicated logic, but definitely maybe in future we can handle that. But let's focus on first the create profile first. So one problem at a time. So here we are not bordering at all like the result, right? And what we're gonna do, we definitely need to care about our errors, right? Then we are going to say the s.repo, and we're gonna say like update user, right? So in this case, the user domain we need to construct. So if you can see in the update user, it is taking the entity that is called domain as a kind of input, right? So in this case, let's try to provide that one first, right? So we're not going to update rest of all the informations, only we are going to update the first name and last name, right? So that is what we are gonna do, right? So maybe what we can say, we can do here, we can check like if the first name and last name is there, then only update. That is also we can check it right here. But we are not going to add more complexity here. That is, I'm leaving up to you as a homework. So you can check it out. If the first name is available, then only update the first name. Or if it is last name is available, then only update the last name. So that is what we can do. Like you can just put some kind of conditions right here, right before update this function. And you can create a model, right? And you can assign it accordingly. So as an example like this, let's say per the user domain, right? The user, and here you can see like if input first name is not equal this, then user first name is something like this. Or if the last name is not like this, right? Then you can assign the last name. Then you can just assign right here like this way. Then it's gonna work something like this, right? And another condition also you can put, like if there is kind of if user has any changes on this, all right, then only you can update. That condition also you can put. But in our case, we're not going to do that because anyway we are going to grab the first name and last name from our front end. So let's try to move like this way. And here we are going to say like the first name, right? First name will be input dot first name, and last name will be input dot last name. So we have our update user request right here, right, to the repository. We will check if error is not equal nil, then we're gonna say like return the error. So potentially we're going to handle this error in later stage generically, but right now let's try to move return it accordingly, right? Then we are not gonna create the user at all, right? So if it is not be able to update, then definitely something is going wrong with this user, right? If this one is going to be success, then definitely we can go ahead and create the address, right? So let's go ahead and create the address first then. So in this case, let's say address will be our domain address, and inside the address we're gonna put like address line 1, then input will be address line 1, right? Then the similar applies like this, right? Address line 2, then will be city like this, and after that the country, then the postcode, then finally the user ID, right? So because this user ID, as I said in the address model, we have the connection with our user model, right? So that's why we need to provide this user ID. So this is the way, only while we are going to patch the user, then the address entity, the address data also, it's going to be looped accordingly. Like it is going to be, while we're going to call this user, then we need to call the preload, then it is able to find it out this address data by using this user ID. Perfect. So we have our address model ready. So let's try to create our address. So in this case, again, we are only care about the error, because this is not going to be a new one, because already we have added this error, declared this error in the first place, right? And then error will be s.repo, then we can say create profile, right? So maybe you can better rename to the, instead of the create profile, you can say create address as well as. But in this case, like address is, it's related to profile, that's why we just added the name as create profile. And now again, we are going to check like if there is any kind of error, then definitely return the error, right? Otherwise return nil, right? So this means we have created successfully the profile stuff, right? So here we are going to update the user, then we are going to create the address, right? Cool. Then now let's go to our get profile section, right? So what we are going to do, we will be covering all the functions first, but then we are going to test it out one by one. Okay. In the get profile section, this is going to be very easy one. So let's try to call user and error, all right? And error. All right, error, and we'll be saying like s.repo.find user by ID, right? And we need to return it, right? So we will check like if the error is not equal nil, then definitely we can return the error, right? Return nil and error, or we can send some kind of custom error as well as, hey, the user profile doesn't exist or something like that, right? And finally, what we can say, we are going to return our user, and error will be nil, right? So you can see like it is throwing some kind of error, right? It is not computable. Why? Because we are returning this domain.user as a kind of pointer. So why we need to return this one as a kind of pointer? Because maybe at any point of time we can get this profile and we need to add some kind of operations right here. So that's why we are returning as a pointer. So at any point of time you can edit that stuff, right? So if this kind of operations are involved throughout of your application, then you should use the pointer. Otherwise, you can return without the pointer also, right? Refer to this address, all right? That's cool, right? This is cool. So now it is returning, right? Or otherwise, you can remove this one as well as if you don't want any kind of like edit operations in future while you are getting the profile. Now get profile is okay. Get profile is covered. Let's go to our update profile, right? Update profile also going to be similar, just like our create profile. So let's try to do that quickly. So what we are going to do here, first of all, let's try to find the user, right? Find the user, right? Because if you're able to find the user, then only you can update the profile. So in this case, you are not required to find the user, because you can see here in this user handler, you have already the authenticated user. So if your user doesn't exist, then it will be failed right here as well as, right? But in this case, like if you go here, maybe you have thinking like, hey, this is the similar kind of like condition we are using for update profile as well as here also we have authenticated user. That is true. But again, if you see here in the update profile, we need something, we need the model, that is we need to pass to our update user, where we can directly gonna say like, hey, this is the model. These are the data we have added, right? These are the data we have just tweaked it. Please update the profile accordingly, right? So this is the way we can do. Maybe we need to edit the address as well as. So this is what we need to do. So in this update profile section, you can see we are accepting input as any, right? So let's try to change this input as any to our profile input, right? So in this case, dto.profile input. We will be having all the informations that is we need to update the profile. All right, so now let's try to find the user, right? So we are going to say like user and error s.repo.find user by ID, right? So we will check like if the error there is any kind of error, right? If error, then return the error, right? And if there are no any errors, then let's try to update the user. So we will check first like if we have the input dot the first name is not equal empty, then what we're gonna say, we'll be saying like user first name will be input first name. Then again, if input last name is not equal to this one, right, the empty string, then we are gonna say like user last name equal to input last name, right? Then finally what we are gonna say, similar kind of logic also you can apply just right before updating this create profile as well as I explained. And now we will be going to say here error and update the user, then we're referring to this user as well as, right? So this is not going to be needed as a pointer, right? Something like that. This. So now if there are any informations going to be there, then definitely we are going to update our user. Then finally, let's try to update our address, right? So in this case, we're not going to find our address because we have a query where we are just simply trying to find it out our address right there as well as, right? So if you go here in the update user, maybe you can see update profile, right? So let's go to this function, right? And you can see here we're updating all the address informations right here based on our address input, right? Or maybe you can find it out this address information also from user, then you can update the data accordingly. All right, then now let's try to update the address here, right? So while we are updating the address, definitely all the informations we need to replace, because while you are updating the address, then certainly why you are changing the address, definitely you are maybe moving to a new address or something. Then you cannot use like one address postal code with the another address, the street number, street name, or something like that, right? So that's why maybe you can add one more logic right here by finding all the address informations to check it out. Like if the address is matching with your previous one, then edit the informations. Otherwise, you can just create a new one, right? So this kind of stuff also you can do while it comes to the e-commerce application, right? So now let's try to update our address. So let's try to borrow this piece of code from here, right? So from here and add it right there. Here. Now we have our address model here. So let's try to update our profile. So we're going to say like s.repo update profile. We're simply sending this address, right? All right. So now we can say if error is not equal nil, then let's try to return our error here, right? Otherwise return nil here. Okay. So let's go to our update profile here, and you can see while we are calling this update profile, then here we're saying like where user ID is domain.user ID, whatever user ID we have provided. Let's try to update that particular domain by referring to this domain address. And now we will be able to successfully update the address stuff also, right? So now I think everything we have just covered from our address perspective, right? So from our profile, get profile, create profile, etc. So let's go to our user handler. Let's check it out. What are the things we have pending right here? So you can see all the configurations we have added right there as well as. But one thing we need to check. Let's go to our main file, right? So where we can say main. Then let's go to our start server, and you can see here while we are migrating, then we don't have the address field here, right? Address domain, we need to add it there, right? That is the way only if you go to user, then only user will be able to reach to address. Let's try to do that, right? So go to server, and here right after the user, we are gonna say like domain address, right? Perfect. So now we have our user, address, bank account, category, product, etc. Cool. Now we're gonna spin the application and we will check it out whether everything is going correctly or not. All right, so now we can spin our server. So let's try to spin our server. So here, I'm going to type make server, right? So this is the command we are often using for spinning our server. So if you go to the console, then you can see our migration was successful. Now let's try to verify the migration in our database client. So I'm using data grid. So in the data grid, if I'm going to the database, that is called Go Ecommerce local, then if I'm expanding the public then table, you can see one more table is there. That is called address, right? You can see the address table is there. So definitely address table will be empty here, right? So because we have not added any kind of address data so far. So let's go to our Postman. Then we're going to make a couple of API call, right? And here, first of all, we're going to do like, sign up, right? So this is the user ID. That is, I'm going to use for sign up. Let's try to use that, right? So our register was successful. Then let's go to our login, right? So in the login also, I'm going to use like the same user ID, like Jai22 at test.com. Then yeah, this is 22 at test.com. Perfect. So we perfectly able to log in, right? Now we're not gonna use the verify step because we don't wanna receive the SMS or like go through all this complexity, right? So we are only intended to create profile, update profile, and get profile, etc. So let's try to put this one here. So here in the create profile, if we are going to the create profile section, you can see this is the post request, and we have the similar path that is we have added in the handler users profile, right? So you can match this profile, this routes endpoint, right, with the handler. So if you go to handler, then maybe you can see, go to user handler, you can see we have our users, that is the authenticated route, right? Then we have our profile here, right? Now what we can do, let's go to our Postman once again, and we're gonna call this post request, right? So this is my name, and these are some of the address, mock address, send a request. You can see profile created successfully. Now the question is like whether this data has been added to our database or not. So here in the data grid, let's try to refresh our table. So you can see data has been added right here, and this is the user ID, right? The similar user ID, you can find it there in the user table as well as, right? So there are no any data incorporated from address right here, but the connection is gonna happen from our address itself from here, right? Now again, let's go to our Postman. So this is the time where we are going to get the profile. So get profile is a kind of get call. There are no any body request right there, right? Only authorization we are using the bearer token that is sharing from our parent directory, right? And if we are going to call this one, then you can see it is returning all the data. So definitely we need to mask this password. If this password should not supposed to return to our profile, that is we need to take care. Address, you can see somehow it is returning the nil data, right? So you can see address ID 0, address line 1, 2, city. There somehow it is returning the fields, but there are no any information. So we need to tackle it, right? So maybe something is going wrong right there. We will look into shortly. Then let's try to update the profile. So maybe we can just fix this one first, then we can update the profile, then we can see the correct data right there. So let's go to the source code first. So here in this source code, if you go to the get profile pipeline, then maybe you can see we are getting the current user. And if you go to our console, then you can see the current user is there. All right, current user is there, and the address data is empty. That's true. So let's go to our get profile call that is from our service. And here inside the service, you can see like we are calling one function from repository that is called find user by ID. Let's go here. And what is exactly there, right? So let's dig deeper into this function. So here we can see we are returning the data, but without the preloading the address. So that's why address is getting nil, right? That getting empty. So let's try to add this data, right? So preload, we can say address, then it's a kind of chain of functions, right? So then it is going to load the user. Now let's try to save the file. You can see the server is already reloaded. And let's go to our Postman. Let's try to call it once again the get profile. Now can you see it is correctly loading the data. So what we learned from here, while we are just going to call any data from our parent entity, if we are not gonna say to our Go ORM, gonna say, hey, please provide this data, this address data, or whatever the child entities it is incorporated, please provide it. So only the preload is going to do the magic to provide the data. Otherwise, we will get the nil data or maybe empty data for that data structure of this whole parent table, right? So this is fixed the issue. So now let's go ahead once again to the here in the postman, we're going to update the profile. So you can see this is a kind of patch call. Again, I'm gonna say like address line is it's called Berlin, right? And Berlin Metro. It's a kind of like funky name as an example. Address line is near my apartment. So this is my new address as an example, and we are going to say 12205. It's my postcode, and country is Deutschland. So now let's try to send the request. Maybe you can say J2025 and ZOI, right? So these are the permissions we're trying to edit, right? So let's try to send this request. So you can see instantly we are getting the profile updated successfully. Now let's go to our get profile, right? So here you can see our name is totally different, right? Then let's try to call this one, send. Then you can see it is coming like this way, J2025 and go, and you can see the address is also gonna be changed. So in this case, like while we are updating while we are creating our first profile, right? Create profile. Maybe what we can do in the source code, we can do this similar kind of mechanism, just like in our user service does, right? Update profile, let's say here, right? So where we can just find the user by ID first, right? Then we can just add all the informations. Then we can update the user. Let's try to copy all these things from here. And let's go here to create profile first, right? So instead of this one, as I said in the beginning of the episode, we can do other way around also, right? So what we missed here? Maybe we missed this one, right? Let's try to copy this and add it there as well. I think here, right? Now, while we're gonna create this profile, then it is going to look into the existing user, then update all the informations, right? So if the first name is exist, then first name, the last name, then last name. Right? So this is the way maybe we can update the user as well as. Now let's move forward to the next section.